Well, good morning, everybody. And to get things started today, I want to show you sunset last night from our high-resolution satellite data here. And as you see the sun setting right over here, you notice several large complexes of storms throughout the southeast of the mid-Atlantic. But there is a stalled-out frontal boundary, very slowly moving frontal boundary here. And the next low that's coming behind it through parts of Saskatchewan into Manitoba. And that front's going to be important for the upper Midwest. I'll explain why in just a few seconds, but this front right in through here was kind of the target area last night for a lot of extremely heavy rainfall, especially in and around St. Louis. I'll show you that again in just a second as well. But as the sun was setting, we could still see quite a bit of the wildfire smoke coming out of this fire in Idaho, spreading here into parts of Wyoming and the western Corn Belt, and also from the Oak Fire, spreading in Northern California, parts of Nevada, and southern Oregon as well. But in the overnight now, this is an infrared image. Just keep your eye right here on this boundary. Where you see these bright whites, that's where we have very cold cloud tops indicating very deep thunderstorms. And as we see this morning, those storms are continuing in this particular area. Now, what's interesting about this front is actually the kind of the setup of the wind field around it. Let me show you what I mean here. If I take you this morning to what the wind field looks like, there it goes, it resets. You can see that the low-level wind field is coming around, delivering the moisture in this direction. Okay, so this is coming right out of the Gulf of Mexico. There's another front sweeping through the upper Midwest, but this front right in through here has an issue where the storms are going to continue to train along the weak frontal boundary. You see, if you just keep stepping up in the atmosphere, let's go up now to the mid-levels, see the winds are still coming out of this direction. Let's go to the jet stream level, still coming out of this direction. And what that means is the storms are just going to run parallel to the front. There's no steering current to take the storms off of the front. And as a consequence, you end up getting animations like this one. Now, this is going back in time, of course, but you see here that starting yesterday, watch right in through this area, the storms just continue to go right over the top of the same location, especially starting last night. See this coming through parts of Missouri into St. Louis? And as a result, some extremely heavy rainfall, up to 6 to 10 inches of rain has fallen in this area, and especially going right across parts of St. Louis. I believe National Weather Service tweeted actually this morning that they broke a new daily record here with over 7 inches, and it is still raining in that location this morning. But let's back it out and just show you over the last 24 hours how things have shaped up, and let's talk about where this is going. Because that front just continues to sag, and what's going to happen is that low I mentioned a moment ago coming through, out of Saskatchewan into Manitoba, it's also going to curl up. It's going to bring its front through, and things are just going to continue to stall out right in this area. So we're hotter and drier south of it. We're going to be drier to the north of it, although cooler in this area for a while all the heat stays in the Pacific Northwest for the remainder of this week. But just looking at this, let's go watch what the high-resolution European model suggests the rainfall pattern is going to look like. So you're going to see the two lows, one here, the other here, and watch for the stalled-out boundaries right in this area. So this is early this morning on Tuesday, going out there toward Wednesday. This is Wednesday evening. Now watch it again. This is getting into Thursday. Friday, do you see the same frontal boundary still sits in this area, delivering much needed rain from Colorado and Kansas through Missouri straight into the Ohio River Valley, places that desperately need this rainfall. Now that front never really seems to clear far enough to the south by this weekend. You see how it kind of just stalls out right in through here as higher pressure builds in around the Great Lakes. So in other words, it never clears the Gulf Coast, never cuts through Texas, which is why overall in the next 7 days, you notice we're drier in this area outside of just daily storms that pop up on the heat of the day here. That's about it in terms of precipitation. So what I want to show you is where the pattern goes after this. Let's get into that right away. Because what's got us here now is a big ridge here that by August the 5th is gone. And the flow goes back to where it's been with the trough somewhere just off the west coast and a ridge regaining a foothold here in the midsection of the country. And what that does is shown to you over here in the panel on the right. From August 2nd through the 9th, we have an active Canadian storm track. The extremely hot temperatures in the northwest now cool back off to near normal. The southwest monsoon continues to make its curl in through here, and as the higher pressure develops, we're going to see hotter, drier conditions in the midsection of the country, including a significant portion of the western Corn Belt. We will have ridge riding storms that go over the top of this. So what's going to be very important here is to see, knowing that this is the pattern we're going to go into in early August, where we've been. Now, this map does not include last night's rains, so you're not seeing them right in through here or other parts of Kansas and where we saw heavy rains last night. This is only through yesterday morning, 7 a.m. So what I'm concerned about is look at the places throughout Nebraska, getting into Iowa, Minnesota, and the Dakotas that have not seen precipitation, including this little stripe right here through central Illinois. You see, why I'm concerned about that is because the forecast moving forward delivers the heavy rain south right now, not north, just scattered storms here, coming in the next couple of days. But other than that, we could continue to see, significant risk of drier conditions here in parts of the western Corn Belt. In the southern plains, the expansiveness of the drought here has been horrific. But as you can see, there are better rains coming into parts of it, not into Texas, unfortunately, but through this region. Now let's come back to this idea about where this pattern is going. And I know I'm focusing a lot on the central United States, but I see that being the biggest area of risk going forward because the heat that's in the west now subsides next week. And there's going to be some rains that come in through this area and get into the mid-Atlantic. So maybe another way to look at that is let's just go out there for the next week and say, well, where is the best chance of getting an inch of rain? So you see it's that same corridor. In fact, we can step this up to the best chance at 2 inches of rain. And now you really identify the spot that's going to see some extremely heavy rainfall going forward. In fact, they even have a pretty decent chance of getting 4 inches. But let's take this out from a week and stretch it out to 10 days. How about right there? And now let's go back and look at it a little differently. This is the probability of less than a ½ inch. And now you notice that this is our wet corridor, which is now showing up in white. We're drier in Texas. We're drier in the western Corn Belt and parts of the upper Midwest getting through the Great Lakes. This is how this pattern is setting up here as we go out there from now through about August 5th. Now, as I said, after August 5th, I do expect those ridge runners to come over the top as I identified here once the ridge is fully established. But that just means parts of the western Corn Belt are going to start to see the high temperatures return with drier conditions overall. So the temperatures today, since we just mentioned them, this is still the same pattern we've been discussing. The heat is on in the west. Take a look at this. There's Tuesday's highs getting into Wednesday. High temperatures in the Columbia Basin through the very southern part of the Willamette Valley, northern part of California of 108. Meanwhile, there's cooler weather on this side of the Rockies, tucked away in those fronts and cooler air around that trough. Still hot in Texas through the southeast through Thursday. But watch the west give up its heat here going into Friday. There it is still. But Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. See how it spreads back into this area? That's the breakdown of the pattern we've been discussing this week and at the end of last week. So the bigger change looks something a bit more like this. What you've got here is a shift in the temperature pattern as we finish July and get into the first week of August. And what we see here is that through that first 10 days of August, we start to allow heat to really regain a foothold right here in the midsection of the country. We're talking temperatures 5 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal as that pattern goes back into something like this, which is what we saw a lot in June and July. In today's report, I also included the new August 7 to September 7 European weeklies, so you can see what they look like. And we also gave a quick discussion about some of the new climate prediction centers output, including this being their risk of what they're considering for August 2nd through the 8th in terms of excessive heat. They've also put in here, if you just look, this area here has the risk of rapid drought onset. That would be, of course, a big section of the U.S. Corn Belt. And finally, they've updated their seasonal drought outlook. This is from now all the way through the end of October. And what I'm concerned about is very La Nina-like behavior here, allowing for possible drought to redevelop in parts of the central and western Corn Belt, lower Mississippi River Valley, and parts of the Pacific Northwest as well. So there's plenty to keep an eye on here as we move forward into the month of August, a critical month for the success of a lot of crops, and I'll keep you up to date. Appreciate it. Thanks.